All right. I'm learning, right? So I didn't realize last video had my head pretty much cut off, but whatever. We're rolling with it. All right. So I talked a little bit about like getting into like social and like what the family kind of environment was like. And so at this point I'm talking about maybe around like middle school, high school, kind of into my teens and formative kind of developmental years of like social connections, which I'm clearly not getting much of, right? I think I mentioned we went to church, and pretty much other than that, like even church and school, like we didn't really like interact with other families or kids. So, and I talked about my brothers had a room and I had my own space. Very important that I'm a scaredy cat, right? And so I, at this point, like, am fully terrified of my dad, and my strategy is just to like keep my head down and to try to avoid trouble as much as possible, knowing that trouble changes every single day. There's no predictability of like what is going to upset my dad, right? So obviously mentally, emotionally, not in a good space. So I did have still this desire to like socialize. I think, you know, whatever you believe about women versus men and the way that we're raised in society, I think for women it's very looked down upon if you, at least to other women, if you don't have friends. And so I'm realizing that as I'm in my teens, right, and I'm kind of like becoming even more of an oddball, right? Because I'm weird because I don't have normal interactions with other people, and I'm also like just like I really want to be normal, and so I try to make friend groups, and you know I don't think I ever really felt like I fit in anywhere because I didn't, right? I didn't have a normal experience. But I remember by the time I was in high school, like I really, really wanted to have a friend group, or at least a really strong friendship. And I got invited to a party over summer, and I really, really wanted to go to socialize. And my mom usually would like let me go when my dad wasn't home to some of these things, which is why I had went to like a couple birthday parties. But this time my dad was going to be home, and she was like, absolutely, you need to ask your dad. I'm not getting in the middle of it. Like, you're a teenager, you need to deal with it, which honestly was kind of messed up because she already knew the grief that was going to give me. But I waited to the very last minute because I didn't want to talk to my dad because I knew it was going to upset him, and of course it did. I basically recall this conversation very vividly because my dad basically tells me he doesn't know who these people are, why do I need to go to their house, and that I don't have any friends, so who are these friends that I'm talking about? And I remember the conversation because I had to admit that, yeah, he's right. I don't have any friends, and I don't have any freedom to make any friends, and I can't have friends because the only thing to do in a small town is to like socialize and hang out, and I'm not allowed to do that. So yeah. But he continues his interrogation and basically asks me 20 questions about who these people are, what their deal is, and he does allow me to go, but I'm only able to stay for 2 hours, and then basically he comes and picks me up. So I don't really get time to like hang out with people at the party before I have to go. And yeah, at this point I see my mom. She's tired, and I don't blame her, honestly. My dad is now home a lot, and yeah, I'm also like exhausted and frustrated because I want to be a normal teenager and I'm not able to do anything. So yeah, that pretty much lasted all the way up into high school, and in fact it got worse because my dad actually injured himself maybe my junior year of high school, and he could not work. um I'm pretty sure up until the end of his life he was emboldened and lawsuits against the post office because of this injury, and his claim that it basically disabled him. Regardless, now he's injured, he's at home 24/7 terrorizing still, because his injury does not prevent him from being cruel to people. And I'm knowing he's not doing this intentionally. It's just, like I said before, like a lot of people in this story, they didn't have time or space to process their emotional. So I don't want my dad necessarily to be the villain of this story. I'm just saying how this environment affected me. So by the time I'm in high school, that experience with the friend thing happened at the beginning of high school. I don't really have a formative friend group throughout high school. I play sports. That gets me out of the house a little bit. I don't really bond with anyone on my team because I already know I'm not gonna be able to hang out with them. They know I'm a little weird, right? Like there's nothing there. And I don't have a solid friend group. I remember high school was pretty lonely, honestly. I spent a lot of time by myself, both at school and at home. So I was fortunately very good at school and did really well in my classes. And by the time I was in my sophomore year, folks were talking about college, and I knew college would be a way to get out of home. So I did my best to get good grades and apply to scholarships, and like that was my roadmap to get out of there and get to something different. So yeah, I think that now concludes the chapter of childhood, and we'll go into early adulthood and what that was like. I think it's important to know I'm outside of the home now. I do come home for certain breaks, but it's definitely a different experience. But I think this next aspect of the story is not really in depth in my blog. So I'm going to do another video on kind of what happened during college, and then kind of my parents' relationship too during that time. All right, we'll stop here.